Did you know every country on Earth is in debt? The United States owes $38 trillion. Japan owes $9 trillion. Japan owes $9 trillion. The entire planet owes more than $315 trillion. That's over 3 times the size of the global economy. Now, stop and think about that. If everyone owes money, who exactly is getting paid? Because here's the truth that nobody ever explains. The world doesn't owe money to some alien bankers or an outside force. The world owes money to itself. And yet, the interest never stops. The payments never end. The debt just keeps growing. That isn't a failure of the system. That is the system working exactly as designed. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is documented history. Meetings happened. Laws were passed. Institutions were created. Over 3 centuries, 4 key figures solved one problem at a time, and together, they built a system that no government can ever truly escape. A system where debt is permanent, interest is eternal, default is forbidden, and wealth flows upward forever. Before 1694, debt had an end. Kings would borrow money, and they'd either repay it or they would default. If they defaulted, creditors lost money, and the system would reset. Debt was temporary. Then came a man named William Paterson. England was at war, its treasury was empty, and taxes weren't enough. Traditional lenders refused to lend the government any more money because England had defaulted before. So Paterson proposed something radical. He said the government should borrow money and never repay the principal amount. Instead, it should just pay interest on it forever. The government borrowed £1.2 million and agreed to pay 8% interest every single year, guaranteed by future taxes. To manage this whole arrangement, Paterson created the Bank of England. For the first time in history, government debt became permanent. Interest became a guaranteed income stream, and the debt itself became a form of money. Banknotes were issued based on these government IOUs. The more the government borrowed, the more money existed in the system. Debt stopped being a problem to solve. It became the very foundation of the financial system. But this system of permanent debt still had one big weakness. Governments could still choose to default. Nathan Rothschild removed that option. He didn't just lend money to governments. He turned government debt into a global web. Bonds were traded across borders, owned by banks, pension funds, insurance companies, and even foreign governments. A single default no longer just hurt one lender. It threatened the entire global financial system. From that moment on, default became unthinkable. Governments had to keep borrowing just to stay afloat. Debt was no longer just a national issue. It was global, and escape became impossible. Even with this trapped debt, there were still limits. Banks only have so much money to lend, right? Then came J.P. Morgan. After the massive financial panic of 1907, Morgan realized the system needed a buyer that could never, ever run out of money. So, America's most powerful bankers met in secret and designed the Federal Reserve. It's not officially called a central bank, but it functions like one. The Federal Reserve could literally create money from nothing. It could buy government debt endlessly. It guaranteed there would always be a demand for government bonds, forever. Now, the government could borrow without any limits. Debt became infinite, but there was still one danger left. What if countries simply couldn't pay? Paul Volcker solved that problem. When developing nations collapsed under huge debts in the 1980s, he didn't allow them to default. Instead, the IMF stepped in with bailouts and restructuring plans. These countries were forced to cut their public spending, sell off public assets, open their markets to foreign companies, and basically surrender their economic sovereignty, all just to keep paying interest. Debt stopped being purely financial. Debt became a tool of control. Put all of that together, and you get the system we live in today. Permanent debt, global ownership, infinite money creation, and no forgiveness, only rolling over the debt. The United States now pays over $1 trillion a year just in interest. That money comes from us, the taxpayers. It flows to financial institutions. For them, your country's debt is an asset. Your interest payments are their income. Governments are essentially tenants in a system they can never leave. If all the debt in the world were somehow repaid tomorrow, the entire money supply would collapse. Trade would freeze. The global economy would die. That is why the debt can never end. It's not a mistake. It's not mismanagement. It is the design. They teach you that debt is a problem to fix. But the architects of this system knew better. Debt is the foundation, and interest is the price of survival. Everyone pays, but only a few collect. Welcome to the global debt trap. Thanks for watching. If this made you think, hit that like button and subscribe for more content that explains how our world really works.